Uh, Thank you, Natalia, for that. We encourage you to keep the camera on so that we could see each other. But please keep your microphone off so we don't hear any background noises during the webinar. Also, if possible, please rename yourself to include your name and organization so that we can see who is participating in the webinar. And this information is also available for other participants. And last but not least, if you have a question, please raise your hand or post it in the chat. So after these housekeeping rules, I will say again, good morning, and my name is Andrzej Ceglarz, and I work as a Director of Energy Systems at Renewables Grid Initiative. And today I am very happy to be a host of this webinar. Now you can see on the screen the agenda that we prepared for today. After a short introduction, why we joined forces as RGI together with German Aerospace Agency, DLR, we will have interventions from two speakers, from Jörn Hoffmann from European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasts, and Jakub Dąbrowski from the European Commission. Afterwards, we will move to present the results of the project and the use case energy system. And after presentation of these results, we will have two interventions from the users. As you will see, this use case was also very much centered and built around users' engagement. And this will follow with open discussion and questions from the audience. So without further ado, I would like to give floor to Bruno and give just a short introduction about the German Aerospace Center. So Bruno, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Andre, and good morning, everyone from my side as well. Just a brief introduction of the DLR, so the German Aerospace Center, in case you wonder why the German Aerospace Center is doing energy research. So actually, the German Aerospace Center is one of the big German research centers, and say under the roof of it, there are different research directions. So it's not just aerospace, as you can see in the middle part. It's also transportation and security research, digitalization, but also even energy. And this is where our institute comes into play, the Institute of Networked Energy Systems, which is located in Oldenburg in northern Germany and in Stuttgart, southern Germany. We have different departments doing research on energy systems analysis, and even on the more technology level, on the energy systems technologies, going down to buildings and urban areas. If you go to the next slide, Andre, I'm a member of the energy systems modeling group within the energy systems analysis department, and this basically just shows the three research pillars we're having in our group here. So if you start on the left, we really put emphasis on open data, open modeling. So over the last years, we collected several open data sets. You might have heard of Scikit Gas, Scikit Power, OpenEgo. So all these data sets we've been involved in and published open source. There's now Remix also, which is an energy system modeling framework developed in our group in Stuttgart, which is just gone open source. And in the center, there's basically the application of all these models, so investigation of transformation pathways of the energy system on different levels, continental scale, but also urban scale, using FlexiGIS, FlexiGIS, which is our urban energy system modeling framework. And on the right, you can see that we're also trying to work on, of course, on the methodologies of energy system modeling. So when it comes to speeding up optimizations using alternative solver algorithms, for instance, but also for defining metadata ontologies for energy systems modeling applications. Okay, this was all my overview, and I go back to Andre for RGI.
Thank you very much, Bruno, and just a short introduction on and overview about RGI if you haven't heard about our organization. So Renewables Grid Initiative is a quite unusual organization being active within the sphere of the energy transition because we are an association of the European TSOs, transmission system operators, as well as climate and environmental NGOs. And we are working together. We are bringing these different actors to progress with grid development that is needed to progress with the energy transition in a way that it keeps some sustainability principles and guidelines, and minimizes impacts on nature and on society. And this is how our work is also structured in three different dimensions: technical one, energy and nature, and social one. And we're trying to combine these topics in our work. So why actually the topic of climate resilience and adaptation is relevant for our work? Of course, on the one hand, the accelerating climate change and climate change impacts are getting more severe, and also our members are observing these impacts, be it through, as here in the picture, you can see some extreme weather events, but also it creates some challenges in operating and maintaining the system because of changing supply and demand patterns. But the topic itself gets more and more relevant also for civil society, also for the NGO community. So this need and this demand has also been observed among our members representing civil society to get involved and better understand climate change impacts in Europe and see how these could be addressed in a collaborative way. And something else that we are working on within the scope of climate adaptation and resilience, following the recommendations of the European Scientific Advisory Board on climate change related to system planning and planning the European grid, that indicate that climate adaptation, climate resilience should be incorporated into the wide European system planning process. We are working together with NSOE to find out and to develop an indicator that could be incorporated into the cost-benefit analysis methodology that helps in the process of European grid planning. But I think this intro and this background information is enough for now. And before we move to the results of the use case energy system, I would like to invite two other speakers that we have to present some bigger picture about the DestinE project. Jörn Hoffmann from European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and Jakub Dąbrowski from the European Commission DG Connect. And I think that Jörn, yes, I see you, that you joined. So I'm happy to change your slides. You can just tell me where I should move forward, if that's fine for you.
Yeah, that's fine, but I suggest that Jakub will go first.
Okay, so please go ahead. So Jakub, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andrzej. Thank you very much, Jörn. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation to the workshop. As the Commission, we are very happy to see the progress done within the use case and observe how the community is becoming bigger and better connected. The use cases were an important part of the development of the Destination Earth, especially in the phase one. And they allowed us to validate our approach and calibrate it according to the needs of the different sectors, users, but also groundbreaking scientific and technological achievements, which were part of the development of the DestinE. Phase 1 and use cases allowed us to test and demonstrate the capabilities of the systems in different areas and for different users as well. And as demonstrators, the use cases are an important benchmark and milestone for the development of the system, which meets the needs of the users and guides our actions towards the real-world challenges. Users obviously are central to the initiative, and from energy providers and policymakers to researchers and technology specialists. The insights and the needs that they present are essential in guiding our efforts and ensuring that tools that are designed meet real-world challenges. In this respect, the energy system use case is an important demonstrator in an area which is and will stay crucial for the EU, member states, and its policies. As we progress towards more sustainable and reliable energy system while trying to meet the goals of our climate policies. The DestinE was launched on the 10th of June 2024. We have transitioned to its second phase. And phase 2 is focusing more on the design and development of operational services for end users, which could support their policy, research, or business needs. We hope to see many services being built based on the work which has been already done during the development phase and of the phase 1. And from here, I would like to thank the participants and people involved in the development of this use case for contributing to making Destination Earth a real breakthrough. And at the same time, I would like to encourage you to stay engaged, collaborate further to help build DestinE and create a resilient and sustainable energy landscape for future generation. Please reach out to us, let us know, and we'll be happy always to discuss and hear your feedback and support as much as possible your needs and your challenges. I think that's it from my side, and thank you very much once again, and I wish you a very fruitful discussion and interesting workshop.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jakub, and I will then give a little bit of background in 4 or 5 minutes on the Destination Earth initiative, under which this use case that we'll learn a lot about today has happened. Next slide, please. The Destination Earth initiative is an initiative by the European Commission, which Jakub just introduced. Next slide, please. And the main objective is really to build a new decision support system, if I may, a digital replica of the planet to support decision-making in the adaptation to climate change and in the response to extreme events. It is importantly built on the Euro-HPC partnership, building on the supercomputer infrastructures that Europe now provides to establish these simulation capacities. One of the key elements is that we're moving to higher resolutions or finer scales than previous global models have been able to do, and to invest in AI developments to make this more interactive. Next slide, please. Currently, we're working on 2 time scales and resolution scales. One targeting climate change, where we're looking at supporting policymakers in simulating multi-decadal timescales, currently up to 2050. Which is implemented by a consortium of the European leading research institutes in the climate change domain. And the weather-induced extremes case, where we're looking at weather timescales, so 2 to 4 days ahead, and supporting very rapid responses. This is implemented by a large consortium involving many of the responsible national meteorological and hydrological services. Next slide, please. We're doing this together with our partners at the European level, notably ESA, who's taking care of the core platform, where users live and access the system essentially, and EUMETSAT, that's taking care of implementing the data lake, which provides an archive essentially of the output data on all the data that's relevant to users to use in the system, and some near data processing capacity. DestinE, together with many partners that we're contracting in this context, is building the 2 digital twins, which I just mentioned, and what we call the digital twin engine, that is the software infrastructure surrounding and supporting the operation of these twins. We're doing this in co-design with users from an early stage, and the use case that we'll discussing today is one of the elements and one of the instruments through which we're doing this. Next slide, please. One slide on the schedule to make you aware of where we stand in this. We started 2.5 years ago, essentially, or maybe almost 3 years ago now, with the first development phase 1, which finished this year. And so we've just started opening the system up to users. And this is one of the issues that also this use case was struggling with, is that they're really very early. So they started their developments before the system was actually online and available to use, which is part of the co-design concept, of course, but it also comes with some of the complication. The long-term vision is to complete the build-up by the end of the decade and then continue evolving it into the future. Next slide, please. The climate digital twin, which is the one that the use case energy systems worked with exclusively, is using 3 climate models: IFS NEMO, IFS FISM, and ICON, for those who are aware of these models, to produce a common data stream, same format, to then feed into impact sector models downstream. And we're really investing into making these data more easily and more interactively accessible, even while the models are running. These climate models are running many weeks to complete. This is something that for some applications is really important. Resolution here is 5 kilometer, which is much, much finer than comparable models. Next slide, please. And I think this will be, I'm not going to go into this. This is at even higher resolution, so 4.4 at the global scale, a few hundred meters at the local scale, and as I said, a few days ahead. Next slide, and I think the final one. We've been driving this through a number of impact sector models, and energy systems is one of them. There have been a number of others. And these were phase 1 developments. We are looking to continue that as a co-design instrument with users into the future. And that's where I stop and hand back to Andre to moderate the rest of the session.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jörn. And this will be a very quick part on my side now, because I would like to give floor to Bruno, who is going to introduce the use case itself, and then present the key results of the research that has been done. And I will stop sharing here my screen and give it back or give it to you, Bruno, so that you can share it and present by yourself. And I can confirm that we see your slides sharing the presentation. So please, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thanks, Andre. Thanks, Jörn. Thanks, Jakub, for the introduction. Yeah, so we've heard a little about Destination Earth now, and now we're coming to the Destination Earth use case energy systems, which is, as you mentioned, one of the use cases implemented on behalf of the ECMWF to support the co-design process in developing this digital twin, but the whole Destination Earth infrastructure ecosphere, if you like. So just a very brief background. I guess most of you are familiar with that, so this can be kept quite brief. Climate, in fact, impact the energy systems on various levels, right? So first, there's the generation side, and the more renewables we get into the system, of course, the more weather dependent the system becomes, right? As solar radiation, wind speeds, temperature, all this affects the efficiency and the potential generation of renewable energy power plants, if you like. We can have an impact on the infrastructure. Andre just mentioned the extreme events hitting pillars and transmission lines. So here we're talking about extreme events basically affecting the infrastructure, but also temperature has an effect on how much electricity actually can be transmitted through the lines. And last but not least, of course, also temperature, for instance, influences the demand for heating and for cooling, and as such also has an impact on the energy system. This is basically the setup, a somewhat similar representation. So if you now look at the energy system has the task basically to to keep the balance between the load, so the demand of electricity on the one hand side and the available generation on the other side. And this balance must be kept, of course, every day, every hour, every day, every year. And basically ensuring this is the challenge of the system operators, also represented by ENSOE, which is the European Network of Transmission System Operators for Electricity here, which I borrowed this figure from. And as you can already see here again on the bottom parts, these boxes related to uncertainty, these are basically meteorological effects influencing the way how this balance can be kept and the uncertainty related to this. So what are the objectives of the use case? We've mentioned one already, so supporting the user community, building this gap between, or this bridge between Destination Earth and our user group, to basically bridge information gaps, to overcome hurdles and barriers which exist, basically to foster the uptake of climate and weather information in power system, energy system modeling applications. We would also like to offer guidance and knowledge to support this and to contribute by doing so to a more informed decision-making processes when it comes to energy system planning. We've gathered a group to achieve this. So basically, this use case can be seen as an intermediate between the providers of climate information on the left-hand side, which is ECMWF, for instance, with Destination Earth, but also different services like the Copernicus services. And as I said, the core user group on the other side, so the TSOs, research bodies, but public bodies, and in between there's the use case, which is implemented by the German Aerospace Center, DLR, together with RGI and also Aarhus University. This actually has been the use case for the first phase, so it's actually ended end of October, and we're now here to present, say, the major outcome of this use case, which brings me to the key results, and I just keep on talking, if I may. The major question we would like to answer with this use case is, or what we would like to investigate, is what kind of a difference DestinE can make for energy systems modeling, for energy system planning in particular, and we do so under the roof of what we call performance and impact assessment. As this word says, it's about assessing the performance of the Destination Earth, in particular the Destination Earth twin for climate adaptation, and the potential impact this data and all of the infrastructure might have for the energy sector. This use case basically has 4 parts, 4 puzzle pieces, if you like. The user engagement will be presented by Andre later on, so I'll focus on the other 3 for the moment, which is the quantification of model sensitivities. We have an observation-based data validation and also some datasets intercomparison activities. Core element of this use case is the energy systems demonstrator, which is a, say, somewhat simplified but representative implementation of a user workflow in the open source power system modeling framework. This is the core element, our simulation core, and around this simulation core, we basically do all the other activities in order to achieve this performance and impact assessment. For the observation-based data validation, for instance, we combine data from the digital twin with high-resolution measurements from cloud measurements from surface in situ measurements, but also satellite measurements, for instance. The question we would like to answer in this context is get a feeling for the quality of this new climate data, because it's new data, it's a new model. So this is part of our use case to do some very limited, brief, first check of the quality of this data. Then we would like to combine this data with several different additional data sets and do this data sets into comparison to see how the climate twin actually compares with respect to the other data sets. And finally, the final step would then be to see how the power system, so our representative user workflow reacts on these different meteorological data sets. So these are the puzzle pieces which I would like to try to cover during the next 20 minutes. I've borrowed this from Jörn. We will contribute, or we have contributed in several ways to Destination Earth. First of all, by, as I said, assessing the potential impact of the new data or the benefit of existing data sets for energy system modeling applications. We wanted, and I think we've been quite successful with that, to be an intermediate between ECMWF and the system operators to advocate for their needs and requirements. We have contributed to the data lake, or we could contribute to the data lake by enriching it with renewable energy and power system data, and also, say, prototyping a potential energy system service. So the services have been mentioned also by Jakub, which are, say, the mean to open Destination Earth for the users in the future. Okay, so this was the introduction part. Becoming concrete now. So as I said, we used for our demonstrator, we focused on the European adequacy assessment, which is conducted on an annual basis by ENSO-E. And we've basically collected the data which is published by ENSO-E for this purpose, which is a pan-European climatic database, the PECD, and the pan-European market modeling database, including all the information on generation capacities, transmission capacities, and all that. And PECD includes the time series, the weather-dependent time series for renewable power, but also for demand. Then we've, of course, considered time series from DestinE's climate trend, as Jörn said. So we've just got access to this data, say, 2 months ago or so, or 3, so over summer. Then we've considered alternative PECD scenarios, which were published by DTU for the last version of the PECD. So now, since September, we got a new version, PECD 4.1. And for this version, these alternative scenarios are also published on the Copernicus data store. And we've also considered additional data sets, for instance, by the University of Reading, but also renewables.ninja, if you know these data sets. Tools. So first one, again, is our demonstrator, which we can use to showcase how meteorological information can be used, for instance, for the European Resources Adequacy Assessment, but for similar energy system planning or adequacy assessment applications as well. So this demonstrator combines weather information with information on the power system. Then we can run our simulations with that, and in the end, hopefully come to some matrices which might have a real-world impact, or at least a counterpart in the real world, which are known and established. In this case, it's the adequacy indicators like loss of load expectation or energy not served, which is published every year again by ENSO-E as a result of the European Resource Adequacy Assessment. Next, we have tried to somehow define a standardized way to assess the sensitivity of these kind of workflows on the meteorological inputs. We've done this data validation, as I said, and as a little extension, we've also took on the area of machine learning, trying to replace the expensive non-linear or linear optimal power flow, though the optimization part, by an LM model, which could, for instance, allow also to make use of this, of the whole bunch of data which is available and which will increase in the future with the digital climate models, for instance, in the PECD. Okay, coming to the results. Data sets into comparison. I guess many of you know that the data sets used for this model applications basically differ in 2 major aspects. So the one is what I call the meteorological basis. So whether it's in reanalysis data sets or whether it's in climate model, and then which reanalysis or which climate model could also be satellite observations, for instance, when we consider radiation, for instance, for PV. The second point then is, or the second aspect is how we convert meteorological information from this basis to the time series we use for the energy system modeling application, right? So it's about hub heights, it's about power curves, about where generation capacity is located, and how we aggregate this to get the time series we need for bidding zone level or country level. Here, just a scatter plot of a few different scenarios, and as you can already see, this is the hourly onshore wind power capacity effect in Germany over 50 years, 30 years, sorry. You can also already see from the scatter plots and the histograms that the two aspects mentioned here, of course, have a quite a significant impact on the statistical properties of the data set. Was that a question? Sorry, I don't see the Zoom window, so if there are questions, you have to shout. No? Okay. Yeah, so this is the first result, the first part I would like to fix here. So distinct differences between the meteorological scenarios, just as an example here again. So this is one scenario using a hub height of 100 meters and a resource grade C, which means that the 50% best locations within a country are used for wind power installations. And you can see from the scatter plot, of course, that this, if we go to higher hub heights here, for instance, or different resource grades, so resource grade A just use the 5% of locations, then we get different time series in the end, which might differ significantly. Okay, next puzzle piece, the sensitivity analysis. Here I've shown the frequency of lost load events in our simulation. So now we took all these meteorological scenarios, plugged them into our demonstrator, run our demonstrator for these different data sets, and then we get here some of the distribution of events when the power system is not able to cover the demand, this lost load or shedding events. I've highlighted the PECD here and also the climate DT data set, just to give you a feeling of how this spreads and how this affects the outcome. Another table here, disclaimer, of course, our simulations are hopefully representative, but of course are not as detailed as the NCE, so these values must not or cannot be compared to the values published by NCE. Please do not do that. But just again, to give you a feeling of the spread, if you look at the loss of load expectation, for instance, in Germany, you can see that there is quite almost a double between the PECD and the maximum and the minimum data set. So there's quite a range you can achieve with these different data sets. Quite different results. This is basically, I would say, a confirmation of what is known. So the power system modeling application reacts quite sensitive to the meteorological input. We just confirm this. We show this as one part of our analysis of our impact assessment. Last part, I've mentioned this, is the quality assessments or the data validation part. For this, we've used the data of the climate twin and again considered different sources of observations in this case. So we got here our eye-to-sky measurement network, which are basically fisheye lens cameras facing to the sky and taking a picture every 30 seconds, distributed over northwestern Germany. So we've got a network of these stations. Then we've got a surface radiation network data. We've got satellite data. Here's Meteosat second generation. So we've got the CAMS gridded data set, but also the SLP, the Solarleistungsprognose. And we've considered wind measurements from MedMAS, so from the BSC's Tower Data Archive. And the validation, as written here, focuses on statistical parameters, but also on a comparison between the different climate models. For instance, the climate models used for the PECD4 now and the digital twin. This work, again, the disclaimer, is still ongoing. We need to finish this and wrap this up. So results are still a bit preliminary. I've chosen this example here because I think it's most quite illustrative, and does not need too much explanation. So shown here is the histogram of wind speeds from the climate twin, one of the climate models. We at that point only had access to one of the three models. Jörn mentioned IFS Nemo, IFS FESUM, and ICON. So we just got IFS Nemo here, which is one of the climate twins, and compare this to measurements from a MetMass in Karlsruhe, this is in Germany on the top panel, and in Hedjotschol, if I'm correct, which must be in Hungary. So yeah, as you can see, I think for Karlsruhe, the distribution fits quite well, at least the shape. So there's a bias, of course, there's a shift towards higher wind speeds, but the shape of the distribution fits quite well. For the Hungarian location here, we got an overestimation of these low to medium wind speeds and underestimation of the higher wind speeds in the model. And here I've plotted now the histograms of two models which are included in the new PCD4, which is global climate models, again with a higher spatial resolution. So these are the CMIP6 simulations of two models here. Again for Karlsruhe and for Hedjotschol. Yeah, for Karlsruhe, I would say again similar behavior, but the shape for me looks a little different. So here we got an overestimation again of the higher wind speeds and an underestimation of the medium wind speeds, and yeah, this effect is often even more pronounced here for the Hungarian location as well. We did quite some more analysis of this data when it comes to radiation as well, and when it comes to spatial and temporal variability, so computed different variability indices. Overall, we can say for now, from this brief, limited, as I said, quality check, that Climate T3 shows quite some high accuracy with respect to the representation of the spatial and temporal variability of the variables which are necessary, which are needed for our power system simulations. So these are basically the three major results we can get from these three parts of our impact assessment. I now got just two slides on, as I said, this short, small ML extension we had in our contract. So what we did is a short proof of concept, right? So we took an approach developed at Frankfurt Institute of Advanced Studies by Chen Li, which is a PhD student supervised by Alexander Kies in Aarhus University. So this is the link, right? So Alex Kies is involved in this use case. And then we used this approach, which is, I try to highlight this here in red. So in principle, is able to capture the spatial correlations for varying weather conditions, which is able to represent node to transmission link relationships and also ensure the feasibility of the power dispatch in the end. So this is what this ML approach tries to capture, tries to be in the end. And then this is just one example showing one situation, one critical situation where we have this shedding. So again, a lost load event in Germany. So this is a dark bluish purple bar here, and the left bars always show the ground truth. So this is the outcome of our optimization, and the right bar is the ML model. And you can see that at least for this simplified, again, proof of concept, and for this situation, the ML model seems to work quite well, and of course, avoids any expensive optimization. So this might be something which could be used, for instance, to do an adequacy assessment based on different climate models, different climate scenarios, different capacity layouts, and all this kind of stuff without doing too many expensive optimizations. Okay, with that, I would like to come to my conclusions. There's one major conclusion for me, which is that Destination Earth, for now, already provides high quality state-of-the-art meteorological information, which should be considered as a data source for power system simulations. This is the data part. But for me, there are several more conclusions and important aspects when we talk about Destination Earth, because Destination Earth, of course, not only is this data, right, which is already important. It's a relevant, important data source, but there are more aspects. The first one is the infrastructure, right? So with Destination Earth, we have the chance and the opportunity to bring the energy system model really, really close to the climate model in one workflow, right? So there is basically a data stream, because the data amount produced by the climate twin is so huge that this data is streamed, right? And we can try to get the energy system model directly in the stream of this climate model, which is, yeah, quite, if you ask me, quite exciting, as someone who's doing energy system modeling and then has some climate atmospheric physics background. And the last point, and this also say the reason why we're here today, I would say that, and this has been mentioned by Jakub in his introduction as well, so DestinE, last but not least, is a platform, right? So it provides a platform for bringing together different people, industry, research, and policy, to work together and to use the data and to use the infrastructure, to use the HPCs which are there, the cloud computing infrastructure, to make the best of the data and the knowledge which is available in the Destination Earth, to turn this knowledge and data into action, basically to get the renewables transition in Europe, to make this a success. And yeah, I would like just to echo what Jakub says. I can just encourage everyone to get involved here and get engaged to use this. Basically, it's an offer, and we could use it as a community. And yeah, this is also, I guess, a link to Andre's part again, and I'll stop sharing, stop talking, and give back to Andre. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bruno. And indeed, I'm going to share now my screen. You can see the presentation, correct? You can see my screen, right? Yes, I think that's it. So, and from our
sorry.
I cannot.
Please try again.
Yes. Okay. Is it working now?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, also moving to the part of the project, to the part of the use case that Bruno mentioned about, and echoing Jakub, is I would present in a nutshell how did we try to engage different users and through what kind of activities to make sure that the work that we're doing is relevant, but at the same time providing this platform of exchange and transfer of knowledge. So it was clear from the beginning that we will put some substantial effort into engaging with different users. And at the very beginning, we divided, or we identified the actors, the target audience that we would like to talk to, that we would like to involve into our activities, and we divided them into, let's say, 4 main groups, which would be grid operators across voltage levels. So that would include TSOs and DSOs, but with the distinction between technical level and strategic level. As well, we knew that we would like to exchange the knowledge and collect feedback also from scientific community and public bodies that would include not only policymakers, but also regulators and, for example, agencies. The objectives of involving these different groups were, on the one hand, to ensure the relevance of the work that we are doing, but to make sure also that we understand the needs of the users, how to integrate climate information into the workflows, to raise awareness and collect feedback on the modeling. And last but not least, all the activities that we carried out aimed to inform some policy adjustment and disseminate the objectives and ideas behind the DestinE initiative. So what exactly did we do within the co-production activities to collect feedback and collect input to the work that we are doing? At the very beginning of the start of the use case, in February last year, we organized user needs workshop in Bonn, during which we collected insights and from different users, including grid operators, in which direction the use case should develop. And it was a very good exchange and very useful because it allowed to program our activities and the way how the work should move forward. The same afterwards, almost a year later, we designed and distributed an online survey that was accompanied by videos. Distributed to different user groups to understand whether the work carried out so far is relevant and what should be improved and what should be the next steps. The results of this survey, but not only, they served to organize another workshop that took place in February this year in Brussels to present some of the results and also to improve something that was upcoming within the work. But at the same time, we try to facilitate user community. So not only to concentrate on generation of the results, but as mentioned, trying to transfer the knowledge and the results towards different users and keep the momentum of informing about the project. So we did it through social media activities, during which we inform about the project progress and project activities. We also created some publications, and here you can see a fact sheet about the project and the use case that was accompanying the online survey. We also attended different events that allowed to present the use case, but also to allow the others from the DestinE community to present the outputs of the project. And we keep this, or try to keep the community updated while sharing the information through different through newsletter items, at least on the RGI side. So this is what we have been doing throughout these almost 2 years of the project, and I'm looking into the time, and we are a bit behind the schedule. So I would say that without further ado, I would like to invite 2 other speakers to share their perspectives about this use case, about this project, and to share some insights from their side. And I would like to invite first Andreas Zucker, who is working in DG Energy of the European Commission, and afterwards Laurent Dubout, working in the French grid operator RTE. And I will stop sharing a screen now so that we can focus on the interventions of Andreas and Laurent. So Andreas, the floor is yours.
Andrzej, thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say a few words today. First of all, I want to thank the initiators of this project for the impressive work that has been done over the last 3 years. I would like to thank those who initiated the project and those who carried it out for liaising and exchanging with the potential users, of which the Director General of the European Commission I work for certainly is one, more indirectly, but also directly in some respect. And many thanks for that. And just to let you know that the door stays open and that we are very eager in any follow-up, and both follow-ups of this existing project or similar projects, always open, always welcome, if you would like to have us on board. Yes, this couldn't be more relevant. The project that you have started couldn't be more relevant than it is, because this year about 77 gigawatt of new wind and solar will be connected to the grid, or have been and will be, according to the recent estimate. The lion's share of that is more than 60 gigawatt of solar. That is a rapid increase during the last 2 years. The next speaker will know much more about that. But that means that during the last 12 months, we already had 49% of renewable electricity generation on the grid, of which 11% was solar, 18% wind, and of course you have hydro and biomass along that. So basically, the idea of having accurate tools for understanding the consequences of having renewable and an increasingly renewable electricity system are really getting mainstream nowadays. This is nothing for so much for the future anymore. This is happening right now. In the EU, you know that we have just started a new policy mandate. Our commissioner yesterday has been confirmed in the mandate by the Parliament hearing. Some of you might have followed that. During the last commission, the outgoing European Commission, the main policy initiatives have really been, on one hand, the Fit for 55 policy package, so the delivering the Green Deal policy package, which involved increasing the ambition for greenhouse gas reduction to 55% versus 1990, which then involved a renewable energy target of above 40%, which actually implies having an electricity system in 2030 which runs at least 2/3 on renewable energy. And you know that during the last mandate, a number of events happened of geopolitical nature, the invasion of Ukraine, which then led the Commission to prepare the Repower EU communications, in which we actually further increased the renewable energy goal. That basically advanced front loads with the aim of reducing the dependence of imports of gas, of course, but which further front loads the need to invest in renewable energy sources, other greenhouse gas neutral sources, which makes the questions that the Destination Earth use cases answers more relevant in near time than it might be. And why? Because actually the challenges that we have as policymakers is to understand the impact of such a system change on both the operational aspects of systems, but also the economic aspects. Basically, understanding the value and the economic value and the economics of renewable energy and the operation. And this is why, with a further legislative package, which was the electricity market design reform, we have added to the work, which is already done in an excellent way by the European system operators. We will add the requirement to do an assessment of flexibility, that the ENSOs will make a proposal for that, and our agency for the regulation of the for supervision of the regulators, ACER, will then review this. For all our existing legislation on the development of grids is well known. It was mentioned. So the 10-year regulation leading to the TYNDP, which basically had as a consequence the grid operators to carry out the resource adequacy assessments, which in themselves require the use of state-of-the-art tools and data sources. And we have seen how Destination Earth has contributed for further improvement of such data sources. And I think we have seen that the relevance of having such methodologies and constantly improving them is very high. Therefore, I can only welcome the development. I also very much welcome your ambition, your dissemination efforts, Andrzej, because no work is worth anything if nobody knows about it. For full support from DG NR to support this dissemination. We are encouraging all the modeling communities and our own modelers to take stock of this work. We have a number of modelers that work for us through different contractual or other relationship. Therefore, my encouragement for the community to take up the work that has been developed. Happy to be on board for any new similar proposals, and thank you very much again for having us.
Thank you very much.
Not too long.
Yes, thank you very much. And yes, please, Laurent, now your turn. So please go ahead and yeah, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Andres, and thank you for the invitation. And also, I will not repeat everything that Andreas said, but thank you for all the people who are involved in this project. I think it's very interesting and offers new opportunities for the energy sector. So as Bruno mentioned, decarbonizing the energy sector towards our net zero emission targets requires developing renewable energies, and developing renewable energies will make the power systems more dependent on weather and climate, so weather variability and climate change. And for this, of course, we need more and more weather and climate information with increased quality, and those will have a more and more important role in the energy transition. At RTE and at the EU level with ENSOE, where I'm leading an expert team on climate aspects. As you know, we are developing the new pan-European climate database version. And Andrzej, maybe you could share the slides I prepared for that, please. And so this work aims at producing the new version of this reference dataset that has been used by ENSOE over the last years. So we started from an initial version based only on RAN analysis data, so PCD 3.1, and I will not go into all the details, but basically what you can see is that currently we are having the PCD 4.1, which includes both RAN analysis data and projection data from semi-6 models, so coarse resolution models, let's say. And by the end of this year, we will have a new version of the database, which will be much more complete, containing 6 climate models, 4 emission scenarios until the end of the century, in addition to the historical data. And so this database will be made public. The 4.1 is already available in the Copernicus Climate Data Store, and the 4.2 will be available as well. And then we will work on further versions and further evolutions in the future. It will be PCD 4.3 and not 4.5 to start with. But for those evolution we envisage, of course, we are thinking of using the new semi-6 based Eurocortex simulations, which will be at a higher resolution, around 10 kilometers. And of course, using the destination Earth climate simulations might be an option. We already started discussing that with Jon in particular in the last few weeks. And so I think we made very significant improvement with the PECD, and we clearly would like to make it a reference dataset, maybe not the reference dataset, but at least a reference dataset for all power system studies in Europe. And that's also why we want it to be open access, and maybe then likely the code will be made open source also via the Copernicus platforms, so that anyone can contribute to improve the dataset. Because one thing we all know is that every time a new project arises to develop power system studies and so on, people spend a lot of time, really a lot of time, in preparing input data, so meteorological data and capacity factors data and so on and so forth. And we think there's really an advantage and a very good goal to provide this kind of, I would say, reference data set that can be used by everyone, but can also be improved by everyone by putting it in open source. So here are the details of what is in PCD 4.1 and 4.2. I won't comment this slide anymore, but you will have it in the slide that will be shared. And so coming back to destination Earth, I really think that It's innovative and really, really interesting in two aspects. So first, with the extremes digital twin, which will provide on-demand high resolution simulations that, for instance, could be used to look precisely at the local impacts of extreme events like storms or heavy precipitation on the power system. That would be very, very interesting. And of course, in the context of prospective studies, the high resolution climate simulations with the climate twin with more frequent updates than can be obtained from simulations would really be a very important advantage because it would provide more regular updates, but also more local information that currently is missing in this kind of studies. And so, like I said, initial discussions were already engaged with ECMWF and the DestinE project to consider the possible introduction or ingestion of the destinational simulations into a future version of the PECD. It will not be for this current project, for our PECD current project, which ends in August next year, but maybe for the next phase starting at the end of 2025. Just the last word about the energy use case. It's very, very interesting, and I was particularly impressed and interested in the machine learning proof of concept. I think it's really interesting because, yeah, it potentially provides an opportunity to run multiple climate scenarios in power system models, which currently is a strong limitation because those power system models require a lot of computing resource. And so the help of AI in general and machine learning in particular is something that really needs to be investigated, and I'm very happy to see the results that were shown by Bruno. I think I would stop there, and happy to answer questions if any. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laurent. And it was good bridge, because actually we are moving now to the time of the webinar when we would open the floor to ask any questions from our audience, and also to facilitate some of the discussions. So I will stop sharing my screen now. And I would encourage all the participants to raise your hands and ask any questions you might have. I've seen that there was already one question asked in the chat that was answered by Jörn. But indeed, if there are any other follow-up questions on this, feel free to raise your hand and ask. I don't see any question now, so I will allow myself to ask the first question, and maybe to break some ice, and addressing question to Bruno after the great presentation and showing the results. And I wanted to ask about after performing all that work, but are you facing still some obstacles while dealing with climate information? And what do you think, or how do you think that the DestinE could support you with that? And I would also encourage the other participants here, especially those representing our users or the core users groups, also to think about such questions. What else could be done or improved, also based on the results presented by Bruno? But Bruno, feel free to.
Yeah. Thanks, Andre. I mean, of course, this is kind of the background of this use case, right? So because before we started implementing this, I was like just a researcher trying to use climate information in energy systems modeling, and I mean, Laurent, you mentioned all these databases, and like I can confirm, for me at least, the PECD in fact is the reference data set, but still now, if you consider 4.1, right, you mentioned 6 climate models by the end of this year or early next year. I mean, the way how actually this data should be used or could be used, or which implications it has if I use the one model or the other, or the one climate scenario or the other, is not completely clear to me. So this is why we tried to make these efforts in the sensitivity analysis and in describing the differences between the data sets on the one hand, but also linking them to the power systems reaction on these data sets, right? To really understand this, make this transparent, and ideally from this information then derive, say, some recommendations for combinations of data sets which might be useful for the one or the other application. This is the point for me. So what Destination Earth in this context could do, for instance, I don't know. I mean, there are different data sets out there. There's Copernicus. There's now the new Destination Earth data sets, which is actually just adding one more data set, right? And but being this place where these data sets are somehow collected and described, and where the implications of using one or the other data sets for the one or the other application is somehow quantified to support this decision making for data sets, if you like. I mean, this for me is the role Destination Earth could play in the end, which would not just be providing the data from the twins, but also using this data lake, which is somehow linked to the Copernicus data store and all these different data sources as well, and have this, of course, also like visually displayed on a web page, so easy to understand, easy to find information which can support deciding about the data sets. Would be my answer to this question.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see in the chat that Andreas would have a question about validation. So please, Andreas, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. Question to maybe Bruno, maybe also others. On the other end of the spectrum, so on the comparison with the time series that you generate with the real world, and in particular with the generation of electricity from photovoltaics. I can tell you where we're coming from. The origin is really that you have a large number of locally installed units and of behind the meter units that are connected to homes. It depends a bit on the EU member state how this is exactly done, and but in Germany this is done differently than in Belgium. But nevertheless, the point that I want to make is that we do not have the same level of measurement that we have for large-scale installations, for large-scale conventional power station or large-scale wind power station, which are connected to the to higher voltage levels. And now increasingly this is getting an issue both statistically on the statistical reporting by member state statistical bodies, but also on the I would say on the visibility of or the reporting of operational data. So not all, to my knowledge, not in all member states are is actually do you have accurate information on the hourly or official information, validated information on the hourly injection of PV. And this problem this situation might get more complicated once we have more behind the meter storage that is not dispatched, that is dispatched at the discretion of the owner. So we do not know exactly how, depends. And my question actually to DLR is how do you think, what should be if you generate time series like the ones from the digital twin, what is the best strategy for validating? You gave us a little bit of a hint of your organization's capabilities, of your towers and your, I took the notes, of your measurement tools. On the other hand, there is of course some information available on the, let's say, real world, on what was recorded by by either distribution system operators or others. And the question is, did you get into a dialogue with distribution system operators or owners of real world solar facilities? Or is what we see for the moment calibrated against your measurements? I would be very much interested in what you did and what you might want to do, and what your opinion is about what should be done with that respect in order to produce time series which best reflect what is actually going out in the real world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And Bruno, please.
Yeah. Thanks, Andreas. Very important part, very important question. We can probably you can spend an hour or two on this topic, but so the different parts. So first, the validation we do on the meteorological fields produced by the climate models, right? So we use the radiation fields, for instance, from the climate twin, and compare this to our measurements, either from satellites or the ground-based eye-to-sky network. But this is no power production, if you like. This is really like radiation and clouds and incoming watts per square meters fields. When it comes to the validation of, say, time series for PV production on the, say, national continental scale, it's of course a different topic and maybe even probably a more complex topic as well. Here again, I would say, I mean, luckily we got ENSO-E, and then ENSO-E has to deal with all these topics, right? And I know that they're capturing all this before publishing the PECD. So there is, for every PECD, for all the time series, that there is some validation approach behind when it comes to the wind power and also the PV power. Maybe, Laurent, you can report a bit on what you do in more detail, but this is there, and I would in this regard really trust ENSO-E and what they decide and what they come up with, because they are the experts in this, right? And they got all the data and information. We've also been in contact with the colleagues in Armin, so in France, who produce the PV data, and I know that this is really an important but also complex topic to validate this data. For us, again, for Destination Earth, our approach would be to stick as close to the methodology defined by ENSO-E, just to make sure that, yeah, this is somehow comparable, right? And we don't introduce any additional error here, which we can do only parts, but at least we try to. Yeah. So maybe a short answer to this big question, but happy to follow up on this if you like as well. In an exchange, or maybe Laurent, if you'd like to add something.
Yeah, maybe quickly. Indeed, the validation of any such energy data set is very important, but it's also very difficult. We see it at ENSO-E with the PECD. Just not going into the details, but basically what we try to do is that every data set is validated as best as we can against observations. So for instance, for the last version of the data set, we, so not we, but the people who do the work, we computed the capacity factors for wind and solar from 2015 to 2023 and compared to the observations. So to reconstruct the capacity factors, they took into account the evolution of the wind farms, locations, and installed capacity and so on. But then when you want to compare with publicly available data sets of generation and capacity factors, there's a difficulty, which is that some data is missing there. And for instance, from the transparency portal at ENSO-E, we have the generation from different production means on an hourly basis, which is very good. But for the installed capacity, we have the information only on an annual basis. And so when you want to recompute the actual capacity factors, you have to make some linear assumptions, linear interpolation between annual values, and of course it introduces a lot of uncertainty in the actual values. Sorry, and so we are also working on that, trying to make some progress on the granularity of the data that is provided by the different GSOs. and by all the stakeholders. But it's not an easy task, and there's a lot of inertia there. But yeah, we try to make things move forward. But it's not an easy task. And of course, this is something that is really important to take into account. It's not because you have observations that those observations purely reflect the truth. And there might be some uncertainties, and there are uncertainties on those observations.
Thank you very much, Laurent, for adding. Andreas, any quick follow-up, or you're happy so far with these answers?
A very quick follow-up would just be no, I'm happy with the answer for now. I can tell where you're coming from. Occasionally the question arises is actually there was a question once whether we in Europe, whether we really see all the PV generation or whether some of that is hiding in missing demand. And that is a question that sometimes come from market analysts. And I think there was even an analyst, I think it was was it an investment bank, so someone following electricity markets, making allegations that this might be the case. So that, because you have theoretically you have some variability for reporting PV generation as generation, or just not reporting the demand that would be offset by this. And the question we had at the time, or that is cost, I don't know how the debate ended. It wasn't that prominent that we had to follow this up in detail, but it just I just found that remarkable to observe that, and it actually it led to the question of what do we actually know. So just to give you background where I was coming from when I asked the question, but no, happy to know that that you're all after that, behind that, and looking at that. No, thanks a lot.
Great, thank you very much, Andreas. And there was another question in the chat, or indication that there is a question from Sebastian to ask. So please, Sebastian, feel free to.
Yeah, thank you, Andre, and thank you for the community for today's presentation and the opportunity to ask a question. My name is Sebastian Rath, and working with the financial services sector, especially the efforts to invest into climate solutions. Myself, having worked and built climate models for the last 2 decades, so I think I'm looking at Destination Earth from the perspective of the users. And if we look at the next 10 years, much of the questions are around, can we do it? Where is the impact? Is the impact big enough? And certainly with your platform, you bring now different sectors and user groups together, which is super helpful for the use of more live data and for more joined up decision making. That's the background to my question. So what I'm looking at now is the opportunity essentially to sort of say, good, we know we have to make regions more resilient. And that's what you talk about, for example, in the sphere of energy. Now, the question, of course, is the markets will want to see how much more resilient are we? And is my allocation of the effort going into the right place? And tools like yours will give some signals on that whole sort of dimension. So I just wanted to play this thought back to you, possibly with a view like 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. So where can Destination Earth be in terms of showing that the efforts that we're doing to making things more resilient in clear regions, can be a city or can be a region, are becoming tangible? So very curious to hear your thoughts. Can be anything. So I'm very happy to just hear you talk about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sebastian, for this question. And Jörn, I think that maybe you are the best suited to answer this.
Yes, thanks, Sebastian, and of course, I mean that is clearly the motivation for doing Destination Earth in the first place, and the vision really is to enable just that. So in a 5 years time frame, which puts us at the end or very much at the end of the implementation timeline, the plan is to have a system that can be used in an operational sense to provide up-to-date quality controlled information on different climate scenarios, which can be used as input and are used as input by stakeholders at different administrative levels to test different adaptation options, in essence, that they have. These will require local scale models for cities, for regions, and depending on where on the globe you are, these may differ. And there are also different socioeconomic contexts that may make some options choices more applicable in certain regions than in others. So this is something where I do not necessarily expect one size to fit all cases. And I am expecting that larger scale players like, I don't know, investment banks or financial institutions will probably use approximate tools to have something that will work in different locations. But if you're looking at the city scale, then that will mean that people will use their own local models, configure their own local models, and connect them to the to data that hopefully will also come from destination, right? That's what we're setting out to do. But in principle, may also will likely include other data coming from different regions, and that's what the overall destination Earth system aims to provide. Then. I'm aware this is not a complete answer to your question, but I think an important thing is to realize that this will not fully come from the institutions that implement Destination Earth now, but that is elements that need to be implemented by from the user side or intermediaries who will work with the users to implement or integrate these local models into these workflows. To connect them to the system and do that part of the simulation that requires very location specific simulations and data.
Super clear. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. And yes, and I see that Bruno raised his hand, so please go ahead.
No, thanks, Andre. Just because Laurent, you mentioned ML, so the ML approach, and I'm quite curious. So if you now decide, or at least actually we propose to follow up on this ML, from your perspective, do you see obstacles, or which obstacles do you see for an institution like NCA, but also for RGI, for instance, to use such an ML within your workflows? What would it need from our side to establish this, to validate this? Do we have a feeling for that?
Well, it's clearly a strong evolution with AI, or what we call AI, for the last 2 years, especially in weather forecasting, for instance. And we are looking at that, and as especially it allows to explore spaces that cannot be explored extensively with climate models and so on, because they are too long to run. And I think that it's the same for power systems. If we can find some kind of emulators that can simulate the behavior of such models, but run very, very quickly, then it would allow exploring days of distribution, for instance, for inadequacy situations and things like that. But I think that the key thing first is to make clearly the demonstration that those kind of models can do the job and can do it in a good way. And there's still a long way to go, I think, and especially we need robust and long enough training data to train those models, as it is a key process in general. But from what you saw from your talk, I would say that there's at least an attempt to be done to explore this way and see if machine learning can help overcome the issue that we generally have with the computation time of system models. So clearly, so I would really be happy to follow up on that later.
Yeah, this was actually the idea. Okay, yeah, thanks, Laurent. Very valuable feedback. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the audience? No, I don't see any question in the chat, and I also don't see any hands raised. But I'm looking also into the time, and we are slowly going to an end. And okay, since there are no other questions, so I will yes. I think that it would be a good time to move to the final slide and maybe some final words that will concentrate around thank you and being happy. First of all, thank you for joining this webinar and joining this event. We were happy to organize it and then also to host so many participants being involved. Also, our guest speakers from the European Commission, from ECMWF, and Laurent from RTE. But I would also like to say thank you to all of the users and to the entire DestinE community who have been involved in our activities, which we presented also today. It was something new. It was a great learning journey for all of us. And the input and feedback that we collected throughout this time is very much appreciated and allowed to generate all of these results. From my side, also many thanks to all colleagues at DLR being involved in this project, also to colleagues at Aarhus University, and all colleagues at RGI, those who used to be involved in the project and being involved currently, for the engagement, for the commitment, and generating all of these results. And maybe Bruno, some last words from you before closing the meeting.
Yeah, we basically can just echo what you said. So it's been a great experience, this use case, and many people have been involved at RGI. So Andre, you and your team, but also comms team, really did a great job. Nati is here today. Thanks a lot for this. Leah, of course, but also a team at DLR. So many colleagues worked on this. So supported me with the implementation. The validation part was done by Thomas Schmidt, actually. He's here today as well. Thanks, Thomas, for that. And then support by our senior scientists. Alex, always great to discuss with you, to have a chat. And then Alex Keys from Aarhus. And of course, the whole team at ECMWF, Jörn and your team, but also Leila, the comms team, Jamaico. Yeah, has been fun. Thanks a lot. And thanks for joining. Thanks for your participation today. Thanks, Andre, for organizing, for hosting, moderating. Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Bruno. And I think that we are perfect on time. So thank you very much again for joining today. And if you have any other question, follow-ups, or ideas of collaboration, please feel free to reach out to us. We are always open to such cooperation opportunities. And as for now, I wish you a nice afternoon, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good day.